The 300 book challenge does sound interesting, but I don't think I'm ready for it now. I think there are still some gaps for me to run through a 500 plus page book in one day. Not clear on how I would do that or retain the information and notes. So first of all, I would say that while setting a goal of 300 books or a book a day is a goal, ultimately the goal is learning. And we just use setting a goal to motivate us to keep learning and to constantly be learning. And you don't always have to read a book a day, but I think on average you should be reading around a book a day. Sometimes you'll be reading two, sometimes you'll be reading a half a book a day, or whatever the case may be. But on average we want to hit, or at least my goal is around 300 books a year. Another thing that's been helpful for me, I was reading Warren Buffett's biography, The Snowball, which is around 900 pages. And at first I thought, I'm going to go through this in one sitting. I got to finish it in one day because I had that same mentality. I want to practice what I preach. And, I came to the realization that you can't always read every single book in an hour. Most books you can, 95% of books you can. But sometimes, that book, I went through maybe 150 pages in an hour, maybe even 100. So here's what I would say. Something I picked up from Donald Trump that he said in his book, How to Get Rich. And this is how I reconcile that, how I, was still able to read a book a day and get through that book as well. Was, Donald Trump said in his book that he'll spend the first 3 hours of his day reading, but he would particularly be reading things that are relevant to his jobs, more how-to type stuff. And then when he comes home at night, he'll do some more reading and he'd read biographies or ideas from the greats in history. So the way I kind of translated that is, if it is a very long book, like a 900-page book, I don't want to spend a full week reading just that one book because it can throw me off in reaching my goal of 300 in a year. So what I can do is focus on more of my how-to type books during my morning ritual, and keeping that track of one book a day, or on average one book a day. And if it's a 900-page book, I could read that during my spare time or at night, or anytime I really have some extra time and just want to spend time reading, and plan on getting through a book like that maybe in 3 to 7 days. And that way, if I'm still reading a book a day in the morning and I'm reading that other book, the 900-page book, in my extra spare time, I'm actually getting through 8 books in a week instead of 7. So that's a cool thing you can do to organize your time to still be reading a book a day and still be able to go through those really big books. Another thing you can do is schedule to read the long books during your travel time. For example, when I wanted to read the Steve Jobs biography, I got the audiobook and listened to it in the car. And something you can do to make it even faster, I didn't even know to do this at the time, but in retrospect I would have done it, is listen to that at 1.5 or 2 speed so I can get through it even more quickly. So if you do something like this, you can still read books during your reading ritual that you can get through in 1 or 2 days, and then leave these longer books for your travel time, and you can still speed those up by going through it at 1.5 or 2 speed. And the last thing I would say is that the size of a book shouldn't always determine how long you spend reading it. Because remember, reading any book, regardless of how big it is, the goal is to be able to extract and take from it just a few things that you can take and apply to your life to help you get toward your goals. And what you want to do even in a book like that, there's still a lot of things that are irrelevant to you. There's still a lot of things that are just filler. People like filling books and people like talking. Doesn't mean that you should read everything that's in there. So just remember these things, that the size of a book shouldn't determine how long you spend on it necessarily. You can spend your morning ritual or your reading ritual, whenever you have that in the day, on books that you can finish in a day, or maybe even 2 days at the most, and then spend your extra time reading some longer books if that's an issue for you. So I hope this was helpful, and if you're worried about reading long books because you can't get through it in a day, just remember, by using these things, you can still get through it a lot more quickly. You know, a 1,000-page book, maybe it'll take you 3 or 4 days. But remember, if you're just reading it from cover to cover, a book like that will take you 2 or 3 weeks. So these techniques and things still apply. It may take you longer, so you can use these couple tricks and mindset shifts to be able to go through some longer books as well.